All right, well, welcome back. This is part two of this two-part series, The Dark Side of Leveling Up. Now, the first part, we talked about the loss, the process, some of my thoughts in regards to the whole femininity journey. This portion, I want to talk about the germination process of leveling up. And I also put this under the dark side because this is where a lot of people bail. This is the part where it gets really ghetto and nobody wants to be in that. And essentially what is happening is that my philosophy about life and change in particular, change is immediate. So when we say that we're going to be, I want to be X, then it's so. You know, your words mean things. Words have meaning. Words are spells to me. Think about when I say I love you to a person, you know, it can stir them up, like that's a spell to me. So when we say that we're going to change, you know, we're going to activate our inner bad bitch, we're becoming a baddie, we're becoming the it girl, we're becoming that girl. We're speaking a spell over our lives. And with doing so, it sounds really cute, you know, when you could go outside without worrying about catching a bubonic plague. You know, the girls used to go to brunch, and it would be cute for brunch conversation to say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's like, cheers, you know, we're going to do all these things. And then when you actually start getting into the things, this is when things become messy. This is when things become uncomfortable. And so we're in this in-between stage. The best illustration I can give is when you're growing out your hair. You know, you had a cute shortcut, so it's cute, but then that in-between of getting it from short in, like, what the hell am I going to do with it, to longer and you can manage it more. I'm talking about that in-between stage. Very uncomfortable. It's new terrain. It's like if you've always kept a shortcut and you're growing it out, like it's a process because you're going into areas that you're not used to, you're not comfortable in. And we can plan, because I'm a project manager by day. You can plan all you want to, keep the thoughts of risk, decisions, and issues, but until you actually walk that thing out, you won't know what you don't know, and what you don't know oftentimes is the trigger. It's the things that will come up in your journey, in your process of self-development, that will leave you stuck, leave you bitter, leave you angry. And there's also this notion within this growth process that is like instantaneous. Now, to me, I said earlier, change is instant. However, you still have to go through the process. But the instant you say what you say, that is done. But in this reality, you actually have to go through the continuum of the process to reach said thing. So I got notes, so I'm going to be looking at those. Just want to make sure I hit these really succinctly. But it's not cute when we start going and facing ourselves and facing the ideals, the beliefs that we've kept. And some of these beliefs are put on us by our families, by our race, by our cultures, our communities, just the things that we absorb into the world about people that look somewhat remotely like us. And so when you start to get into the deep of things, you then start to really become uncomfortable. And most of us, especially right now, we're in year 2 of this pandemic, it's still very uncomfortable. And it's challenging because we as people, as humans, crave comfort. And when we are in need of comfort, we go to the things that typically bring us joy. And when you're not able to do that because maybe those particular behaviors are no longer in alignment with the person that you're trying to become, it becomes very hard. So let's example, if you're someone who's trying to lose some weight because that's part of your ideal is to be a slimmer version of yourself, and maybe a hard day used to be cracking a pack of Oreos open, now you can't do that because that would not be in alignment with the person, the being that you're trying to become. That's difficult. Now you're going to have to find new coping mechanisms. And then you have to actually get into, why am I needing to cope? What is there that I'm coping with? And actually addressing the cause versus the symptoms. These are things, again, that people don't bring up in this level up movement. This is why I firmly believe most content creators and most people in general around the subject matter are often only giving you filibuster, fluffy, again, light and love sort of content, because if we were to get into the dark and granular, it is not cute, it is not appealing, and potentially could lose the bag, so to speak, for someone selling you that type of information. This is where it becomes very important to understand who it is that you're wanting to become, and making sure that that is of you versus of other people or outside sources. You know, is just being a pretty girl all you want to be? And if that's all you want to be, that's dope. That's awesome. I too would like to just be that. You know, if there's other purposes that you have in life, what are those? Does it go with that? You know, I want to be a pretty girl who also is a high philanthropist. Cool. Like, what does that look like? And then from there, how do I get there? And with those getting there, it's going to take a process. It's going to take some planning, some understanding. That's another piece of this journey that I feel we lose out on. I'm going to be sipping some tea because throat needs some. We have to understand, when you're processing this journey, you will come into facing again with some areas of self that you don't like, that you don't enjoy, that you don't value. And you're going to have to actually unpack as to why you don't like those things. What is it about it? What have you been told? What information have you been absorbing over the years of your life to say that this is not a good thing? Now, I want to read this straight from my notes because it hits the goal in mind in regards to the germination process. When you're going through the germination process, you know, you are going to be planting seeds. And when those seeds start to sprout, I look at that as you outgrowing yourself. You're growing, you're moving. You know, think of a seed. You put it in the ground, you water it, and for a while there's nothing. You don't see any movement. Then eventually, one morning, you start to see some sprouting. And it's, you know, little, very tiny. You know, for my girls out there who are into the plants, y'all probably know way more because I don't do nature at all, but I love nature's process. But you start to see the things that are growing, and then as it continues, like, it really starts to flourish. And you do that when you're growing and you're evolving, you're leveling up, you're growing past the shell that you know today. Now, when you release a lot of that, you release, and then you're not receiving something back immediate. Like, think about it. You plant the seed, there is a time of germination. Like, it's just kind of underground chilling. Like, you don't see anything. And for a lot of the girls, that is uncomfortable. That's super scary. Because then you start to doubt yourself. Then you start to think, well, who am I to think that I can have better? Who am I to think that this is for me? And so you may bail, you may run, you may go backslide into the life that you don't want necessarily because it's uncomfortable. I had a former mentee who mentioned to me very painfully, and it very much hurt when I heard her say, you know, I've given up so much of myself in so many things, you know, releasing people and family and things, to now I'm alone. And I'm by myself. You know, I've gotten this money, I've gotten a bag, you know, I'm going on trips, I'm doing things, but I'm losing people left and right. And that's uncomfortable. And it will make you start to believe that what you wanted is not going to come forth. And that again is a dark side because people don't tell you about this. If you knew going into this femininity journey, level up journey, whatever you want to call it, if you knew the reality of what you know right now, this exact moment would no longer be, and that you're going to have to go through losing a lot to gain, would you really want to go after it? Most times than not, the answer is going to be no. If you knew up front what potentially you could lose and the reality of what you've known. Because let's be honest, when you grow, the world around you has to shift. A baby who wears a 2T, 3T can't stay in that when they're like 8. They got to have some clothes that are expanding to their new frame. Same thing for your life. Same thing as you try to evolve. It has to catch up. It has to expand. And oftentimes expanding means potentially leaving what you know. And some people, we outgrow. And that's scary. It's scary to know that the people we thought would be forever, we thought would be our ride or dies, are no longer with us. And sometimes the fading, the growing out of things is easy. You know, I think when I grew out a haircut, I just slapped on a wig. We kept it cute. You know, no one knows what's going underneath. I can do that in the back, but you can't necessarily do that with your life. So then you're going through this process out in the open, very bare. There's, you know, you're learning things about yourself. You're learning things about people that you thought again were for you, and you start to notice that they're not for you, not in the way that you're growing, because you're outgrowing them. And for some people, it is an easy process. It's just kind of a leaf that falls off the branch. No, it's withered, it died, and it just kind of releases itself. And then you have others that it is a very resistance-oriented process. It's a very aggravating process. These are things that are, again, under the dark side of leveling up that you need to understand, you need to know. I don't say these things to discourage you from wanting to grow, from wanting to be better, if that's what you want to do. But I'm always in that emphasis of if that's what you want to do. Not that you're being bullied, you're being told and fed that you are not enough, because you already are. Anybody that says that they want to grow, to me, is already ahead of the game. Because there are many people, and I have traveled all over the United States, I've met a lot of people who would never think about growth. They're content and happy with being exactly the way they are. So the fact that you even thought about wanting to grow speaks a lot about you. That is a positive thing. Change is not fun. Change is not cute. Now, the end results of it can be, depending on what it is, but it's still a process. You put in your order, so to speak, out in the world, whatever you believe, and you have to wait. And you go through changes until it, eventually produces. And that eventually produced doesn't have necessarily a time factor. Like, this isn't Uber Eats where it's telling you, okay, you put in your Chipotle order, it should be there between 18 to 22 minutes. And maybe it gets a little early, maybe it's a little late, but you have ETA. You don't have that when it comes to your growth. You don't have that in your level up journey. You definitely don't have that when you're looking at how you are presenting in a feminine way. It's not how this works. All right, I want to wrap this puppy up because I want to hear too long. Things and suggestions in this process, understanding the dark side, like, as you understand it, again, it's not to sway you to not pursue, but things that you can do, things to keep in mind. One of those things is really truly staying away. Like, I suggest this highly, stay away from the sparkly content. Constantly feeding yourself content about like being, how to be the it girl. You can, the themes of it is the same, like, honestly. Put a different face on it, it's the same thing. It's just regurgitation, putting maybe a few extra words for razzle dazzle, but it's the same stuff. I would pause on that content and actually make sure, again, why you're changing. Make sure the changes are for you. They're of you, not of other people, or trying to be manipulative and getting seen by other people. Like, make sure your growth is for you, because when it gets hard, because it will, you can go back to that reasoning as to why you're doing what you're doing. Like, I want to be a better woman because fill in the blank, whatever the reason is. And you need to like know that, like that needs to be in your heart of hearts. So when stuff hits the fans, you can go back and replenish yourself and tell yourself why we're going on this journey. Because if not, it's easy to quit. It just is. Because if you're going based on what other people are telling you you should be, you are doing it because your mama wanted you to do this. You're doing it because you see your friends doing it. You doing it because you saw a girl that you've been following on YouTube for the last 5 years starting to talk about it because they're trying to coordinate bundles with femininity and upgrades. Like, no, make sure it's because of you. And with that, I would suggest, journal, because there's going to be a lot of things that's going to bubble up to the surface that you may be prepared for, but there are going to be things that you're going to be surprised that come out. And you're going to need a sounding board that is non-judgmental. So a notebook is going to always be a great thing. And you can also capture things as they're coming up. And another thing I would suggest, that if it is something that you have a lot of challenges or have had a lot of things, go seek a therapist, a trained professional to help you. And your journaling will be very instrumental in being able to really get into the meat of the whys that you feel this way so that you can grow. Because if you want anything to last, it needs to be on solid, healthy, firm ground. And that means in your mind. Is your mind healthy? Are you sound? Because when the mind's happy, everything else in your life will go. Read books, develop a personality, develop hobbies that are outside of manipulating people into thinking that you're something else that you are. Also accept who you are. I'm going to say that again. Make sure in this whole process that you are learning to accept who you are. Both the great and the not so great. Working in this world as a fragmented person is going to make things so hard. For a long, long time, I tried to make myself be what I thought other people wanted me to be, because that's what acceptable. Like, I've always wanted to be what I like to call the ideal black girl. I will never be her. She doesn't know me, and I will never be able to be that. Releasing that notion was so freeing because it allows me to really take up the room and the space that I deserve to. Because I am a wonderful being. I don't need to be like anything else. Make sure that you understand that if you allow yourself to go through the process and allow that germination, you will see sprouting. And I know we love to get to the full result, but appreciate the sprouting, because it took time. You had to set that soil. You had to make sure the soil was good. And like with any plant, if the soil isn't good, we don't destroy the plant, we move the plant to better soil. So ensure that you're watching and understanding, but also understanding if you need to pivot to a different environment so that you can flourish, make sure you do so. Just last words is that I hope and pray that you do not shortchange your growth. If you are wanting to develop and pursue a journey of life cultivation, trash is sparkly, it's cute, optics are needed, but that you cannot sustain off of just optics. I love beauty, adore it. My bathroom and beauty vanity look like it. But I also know that I need more to munch on. I need substance to think on. Beauty, true beauty, has complexities. And I can sustain from that. But nothing but just bundles, makeup, just these hollow things. It's like a fast food meal. You're going to end up being hungry within an hour or two. And it's also going to eventually, over time, of constantly eating that, it's not going to be doing any favors for your body for the long term. It's cute for the short, not for the long. So I hope that keeps into your mind. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you got comments, be it good, bad, or indifferent, drop those in the comments. And if you liked it, or if you didn't like it, you want to talk about it on your timelines and try to trash it, go ahead and do so. Make sure you share this video. And until next time, make sure you're living your best life.